Let's rock!
Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is not for the faint of heart. After cooking in the pizza oven of Fury for 26 years, the Revival comes out with an explosive new entry that will harm new players that don't take their time and engulf veteran ones looking to recapture their remaining glory. Because 26 years is a lot of time. We've been through 4 generations of consoles, 4 Spider's Men, wars have begun and ended, Beyonce is now a country artist, and James Gunn has made some of the most successful superhero movies for both sides of the aisle. 26 years ago was also the last time we had a Fatal Fury entry, which makes this new entry especially important to a booming market of excellent fighting games that have each come closer to perfecting their individual mechanics. I say that because it has been over a decade since I last played anything in this series. So if stepping back into last year's Tekken 8 after 6 years away was like riding a bike, stepping back into Fatal Fury was like walking into the cockpit of a Boeing 747 fully assembled after reading the user manual once 15 years ago. I was woefully unprepared for the difficulty I personally would face trying to master this title. Luckily there is a good amount of in-depth training, tutorial modes, customizable inputs, and difficulties, plus solid foundational mechanics made Fatal Fury City of the Wolves a thrill to learn. While its roster lacks the default iconic names of bigger mainstays and is missing many of the modern fighter features we've come to expect, Terry and friends bring a unique flair of classically trained arcade fighting roaring back into the modern world. Growing up, SNK games were like the Mega Blocks to my Tekken Street Fighter Lego. Needless to say, I wouldn't really discover Terry Bogard dashing smirk, or fists for that matter, until my teens. So I'm, relatively speaking, a newcomer to the SNK game space. But the basic gist of the game is the same as all other 4-button fighters from back in the day, offering light and heavy versions of punches and kicks, which can be thrown at close or long range. If you've played a more recent fighter like Street Fighter 6 or Tekken 8, you may be surprised to learn that City of the Wolves opts to give its players no universal ins or outs. That means no shared dashes, breaks, quick steps, or vanishes. Which means each character's moveset comes with benefits and risks. And it also means that sometimes your warrior pick is as important as your skill set. At first, this hurdle felt like a misstep. I was bewildered by how hard a time I was having with the level 3 CPUs, which is the default. They easily closed gaps, interrupted and responded to my combos, and nearly almost always perfectly blocked me every time I sent my fist flying. It wasn't until after I entered the game's story mode, which story being kind of on the backseat of the game for me since I have absolutely no clue what's going on in this game's storyline whatsoever. But that's where I began to see the game more like a punchier version of chess. Reading my opponent's movement became more important than knowing the frame perfect time to do a dash or spot dodge. With this mindset locked in, I began to feel out the way my opponent would move and really appreciated the reactionary style of the gameplay. Bolstering this read then react fighting was the newly introduced Rev'ed system, which is like a reverse version of the drive meter in Street Fighter 6, building it up instead of losing it. Both fighters begin the game at a baseline 0%, and you'll increase the percentage by blocking enemy attacks or using special Rev techniques, which includes things like EX moves and the Rev guard that adds substantial pushback between you and your opponent whenever you guard, as well as an armored attack called Rev blows. You'll need to watch yourself, as once you hit 100% you'll overheat, and until you cool back down by the gauge depleting, you'll be unable to use Rev techniques, and you'll deplete your guard gauge whenever you block, which can lead you to a broken guard, opening you up for a pummeling from the other side. Functionally, I quite like this system, creating meter management battles and making it so that you can't just spam Rev techniques, which made fights significantly more interesting. What did not make fights better though is the inclusion of Rev blows. These nigh unstoppable moves are used to plow through attacks to deliver a devastating attack of your own, landing a full counter combo if it's landed as a counter. This bullshit is safe on block, absorbs powerful attacks, and can dramatically catch a player off guard if they're not prepared or don't understand this mechanic, which I did not for way too long. Look, these moves are not actually unstoppable. You fight fire with Rev blow fire, and I guess luckily they do have a timed limited window of use, being relegated to the selective potential gear or SPG area, which takes up a portion of the beginning, middle, or end of your health bar. The timing for a lot of the more advanced tactics in the game is so tight that most players probably won't find them achievable, and instead will focus on things like these rev gear blows. Mechanically, City of the Wolves is a solid fighting game with an excellent core. At first, I didn't feel that natural clicking that combo-driven fighters have, but after a few bouts of arcade mode, I found the flexibility of the combo system to be a reliable partner in combat. The roster is full of great offensive players and strong defensive types, and they make up a fairly diverse selection of 17 characters, which gives the game a little bit of longevity. But look, I know I'm new here, so maybe I'm not as familiar with these characters as others in the space, but is it just me, or is almost every character like a little Timu version of a different fighting game character? Like Tanak, the big chicken wrestler guy, he's just a beefed up version of King, right? Or Dongwon is clearly just a bikeless Hwoarang. Look, I don't know, but the characters don't do much to stand out from a crowded genre, and with the exception of Terry Mai, Rock, and Hotakamaru, I didn't really find many characters that I fell in love with. Also, sidebar, why are both the guest characters just straight up regular people? So you're telling me we ran through so much IP crossovers that guest characters are being relegated to just real life dudes? So you're trying to tell me right now in this game that Jeff Bridges, the actor, has a much higher chance of getting in this game than Jeff Bridges' character Obadiah Stane from Iron Man? That what you're trying to tell me? You mean to tell me Travis Kelce might get in here before we get Akuma or like Yamcha or something that makes even a remote amount of sense? Well, I guess at least Cristiano Ronaldo and Salvatore are interesting characters in terms of gameplay. Also, straight up, screw Ronaldo. I hate playing against him.
Who's next? I'm not even close to done.
City of the Wolves offers a solid number of tutorials in its training mode to bring you up to par, but many of the nuanced details are left out of these learning lessons. For me, trial by fire has always been the best approach, so instead of doing all that nonsense, I set my sights on the survival and arcade modes. Survival mode offers a unique challenge as you battle your way through rounds of fisticuffs for 100 opponents. It's a great way to familiarize yourself with a character over time. You can also stop by the missions, trials, which will teach you some proper combos to throw out during matches, though I was not able to achieve many of these. After knocking out a few dozens of the game's missions, I felt confident enough to head into classic arcade mode. I ran through every character's arcade story mode until I loosely understood what was going on in this game, kind of. And then lastly, I ventured into the streets of the main campaign, which is just a fancier, longer version of the arcade mode with RPG-esque elements thrown in for flavor. The stories add to the world building and allowed me to better flesh out the relationships between fighters, but it's told in a boring, text-board way that feels lackluster and removes any uniqueness from its stars. Disclaimer here, I did not get a chance to experiment much with the online mode, though the matches I played against friends were pretty stable. As of writing this, I have not had a chance to go into public queues or fight any people outside of my own friend list. I'm not sure how well City of Wolves will stand out in a crowded scene of excellent fighting games, but I kinda hope it finds its footing. Despite its flaws, I had a blast going one-on-one with a friend, and learning this game was an exceptionally fun time. But I have to admit, its lack of modern fighting mechanics and its wonky, oftentimes confusing menu systems make the game suffer in the long run. If the cast can continue to grow with more unique characters that don't feel so much like they're copy and pasted from other games, perhaps this once great franchise can take flight again. In the meantime, City of Wolves feels all revved up with nowhere to go. It'll scratch that SNK itch, but won't deliver a revitalizing strike for the franchise. I give Fatal Fury City of the Wolves a 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching, and for more reviews, head over to HARDWIRED on kwtx.com.